Welcome, everybody. I hope I'm not the first, but to welcome you to UMass Amherst on this lovely New England fall day. We're so happy to have you. I hope you've had a good day so far, and have gotten lots of insight, gotten questions answered. We are going to talk about UMass Amherst a little bit. You might know, you've kind of gotten to know a little bit about UMass Amherst hopefully so far. It's a little different than the morning session when I kind of had people right off the bat. But I will talk a little bit about the school in general, but we will talk mainly about the application process, what we're looking for in an applicant, and I can at the end answer any questions that you may have. But just to start, my name is Erin Bernard. I'm the Director of Admission here at UMass. I've been here for about 13 years. I love UMass. I think it has a lot to offer. And in admissions, we talk a lot about fit. You really need to be choosing a place that is going to match what you're looking for. It's going to be a really good fit for you and who you are, who you want to be, and what you want to gain over your 4 years. And I hope that we can shed some light today, if you haven't already, on what we have to offer, so you can get a feeling for it, if you see yourself here or not. So just to start, we're going to talk about what's new at UMass Amherst. We have a community that continues to be recognized. We're top 15% among national public universities. Number one campus dining 8 years in a row. Usually I save that one for last, but we talk about it constantly. If you haven't heard it already today, what I'm sure you have, it's something that we're very proud of. If you haven't gotten a chance to eat yet, I highly suggest eating in one of our dining commons. We have 4 dining commons, and then we also have kind of more food, called like a quick service type meal, where you just go order, get your food, and go sit down. And it's kind of like a la carte. The dining is really wonderful, and I think that what people don't necessarily always realize is it's more than taste. Even though that's a big part of it, I think the food here is very good. But it's more than that. They're really great with food allergies and preferences. They label everything. We get our food when we can from local sustainable sources. We have gardens on campus that we grow food that we use in the dining halls. And there's a lot of really great options. So yeah, can't plug that enough if you haven't tried it already. Hopefully you have. Top 20 coolest school, I think this is an interesting one. I like the title, but it's really based on our commitment to sustainability. So sustainability is something that you're interested in. We have a lot of opportunities to get involved, and really across disciplines. So it's a big part of what we do as a whole, and a big commitment that we have as a campus. Top 30 LGBTQ friendly university. We have one of the first Stonewall centers on campus. The person that runs the Stonewall Center is one of the leaders in their field, and we're really gracious to have them on our staff, and really leading the charge in a lot of things in that field. We have 12 faculty among the world's most cited researchers. So we are a research institution. We get a lot of funding to do research. It's a big part of our personality as a school. And once again, that's across disciplines. I think that a lot of times when we think research, we think, beakers and labs, and we do have a lot of that. But there's a lot more to it. Social sciences, even the humanities, we have a lot of research going on in those places as well. And you can really get involved as early as your freshman year. We have this office called OURS, O-U-R-S, and they will help you. You can make a meeting with them. They'll go through what your interests are, take a look at what kind of research is going on, what labs have openings, and help you find ones to apply for, and how to apply, and all of that. So there's a lot of opportunities for research on campus, and we try to make it easy for you to find. We've had over a $2 million investment in our campus infrastructure, and a lot of that has gone towards student spaces. So residence halls, dining halls, and academic buildings specifically designed with student spaces in mind. So that's places for you to gather maybe as a group to study, or to study individually, and just creating spaces to promote collaboration and innovation. You can see a few different buildings up here, one of which being the Student Union, which is the building that we are in right now. And that was probably one of the most interesting buildings that I've seen go up because it was stripped down to studs really in March 2020 when we left campus, and then it was done by the time we came back. It felt like really quick, even though it had been a couple of years. So this is a really beautiful building, and all of them really have created some more spaces for our students. Kind of on that trend, we do have a computer science building that will be done in 2025. We're excited about this. Computer science has very quickly, over the last 5 to 7 years, become one of our most popular majors. It is growing really quicker than we can keep up. And so we're excited to have a building opening soon that we can fill with lots of wonderful computer science students. We also just opened recently a new undergraduate housing building that has about 600 new beds, and they're all apartment style, suite style housing. That was something you might have passed in on your way in today. Let's see, where are we? That way. But it's kind of right near where the Eisenberg School of Management is. So, in general, we are the flagship university of all the universities in Massachusetts. So, depending on where you're from and the state that you're from, some states do it similar, where there's 4 UMasses. We're all separate schools, so you do have to apply to each one separately. All state schools, but majors that overlap, nobody necessarily specializes in one thing over another. But we are the flagship university. We have about 23,000 undergraduate students, making us the largest. And then the other difference is our location. So we're really the only one in the western part of the state. Including graduate students, our total enrollment's around 32,000. They come from 48 different states. That 48 states is our undergraduate number. I'm pretty sure we have all 50 when you count in graduate students, but anyone here from South Dakota? No? All right, if you know anyone, send them my way. We tend to get a new state and then a different one will drop off because there was like one person here from that one, but we're really striving to be able to say 50. Our campus is 35% students of color, 22% first generation, which is first in their family to go to college. We have a really great community of students. They're passionate. They care about what they're studying. They want to make a difference in the world, and we have the resources and the faculty and the support to help them get there. It's a really big passion of ours because we know our students and we know the kinds of things that they really want to be able to do, and we're happy to support them in that. In part of the, support systems that we also have over 400 plus active campus groups. And this is a number that every school is going to throw out this big number of clubs or groups that they have on campus. And it's really just to show the main gist is that there's something here for everybody. You'll find something that you want. You'll find kind of the people that you can connect with. The story that I feel like I've told a million times, but hopefully that I've heard it. Every school kind of has a club that they like to boast about, like, oh, it's more of like an odd club. Like, we have this one, we have everything. When I was going to school forever ago, it was Quidditch. That was like, oh, we have a Quidditch club, but now there's like leagues for that. Everybody has a Quidditch club. So for a while, for me, it was the squirrel watching club. Then that person graduated, we didn't have that anymore. So now it's the lettuce eating club. Which I think is so funny and so great. And sure enough, I've been talking about this for a few years now, and about this time last year, we were hiring in our office, and I'm interviewing this recent grad, and he's talking about this viral TikTok that he made for the lettuce eating club. And I was like, oh my gosh, you were part of the lettuce eating club? I got probably unprofessionally too excited in the interview, but I've been talking about this club forever. And one of the best things is he told us how they choose the president every year is the group gets together and everybody brings a head of lettuce. And what I think started as a dressing of your choice has turned into like a condiment, so like hot sauce or peanut butter or ketchup. And whoever finishes their head of lettuce first is the president for the year. And I love that story so much because I just left being like, there are just people for everyone. Like you're gonna find your group, you're gonna find a connection with people who think that's as funny as you do. And there's something for everybody here. And I like to say that kind of specific story, but you can really broaden that to all aspects of the university. We have a lot of students. We have to have a lot of things for them to do, whether that's classes, clubs, work opportunities, services, academic help. We have to have so much and such a variety. And then you as the individual now have this kind of smorgasbord of opportunities in front of you that you get to handpick depending on what you like. And it's really a place where you can cultivate your own experience. You can be a biology major and your roommate's a biology major, and you can have two completely separate experiences here based on your decisions on the things that you want to really look into or the clubs that you want to join. And so I think that's the best part about UMass Amherst. Really the amount of opportunities available to you as an individual and the support in which we try to help you take advantage of those things. Step outside your comfort zone a little bit, try something new, which I think is good advice no matter where you end up. That's what college is about. If you want to grow into this person that you want to be when you graduate, and choosing a school that's going to help you do that is really important. Very abrupt transition into 100% of our first-year students live on campus. But this is kind of part of the community we're trying to build. If you live within a 40-mile radius of campus, you can choose to commute. But for the most part, our students choose to live on campus their first year. We highly encourage it even if you're in that 40-mile radius, just because it's helpful to build your community, to find your niche a little bit quicker when you have programming within your residence hall and you're living with the other people coming to school. Beyond the degree, 90% of our recent grads had a favorable outcome. That favorable outcome kind of wording, you can be a job, you can be grad school, but it's a really strong statistic. You can join a global alumni network of 300,000 plus. And this is a big deal to us. We have a really strong alumni network, and we have our students take advantage of that and hope that then they can pay it back when they graduate. We do have an online system that can connect you to our alumni, and you can see specifically what fields they're in. You can reach out just to ask questions, or sometimes it creates internship and job opportunities, but they're a very important part of our university as a whole. We have a little over a 90% retention rate, which is that first year to second year retention, and a little over 76% for-year graduation rate. These are both above the national average, and the 76% four-year graduation rate. I think the biggest thing people want to know when they're asking about that is how hard is it for me to graduate in 4 years. And we have a pretty flexible curriculum. I know lots of people who double majored, major minor, triple majored, all graduated in 4 years. I used to manage tour guides for about 5 years, and I really didn't see anybody in those 5 years struggle with graduation. And I don't suggest this, but had a student change their major senior year and still graduate. So there's some flexibility in there, and we have some really great people here helping you figure all of that out. All right, now we're going to move into how to apply, what we're looking for in an applicant. August 1st, the common application comes out. First, before I continue, just raise your hand if you're a senior. Junior? Freshman, sophomore? Awesome. Okay, so good mix. Seniors, I'm sure this is top of mind. It's really coming up. August 1st, the Common App came out. Anybody can go on and make an account and see kind of what the Common App's all about. But November 5th is our early action deadline for those seniors. That's kind of the date you really need to pay attention to. Early action, not early decision. So early decision is the one that's binding. If you apply the school early decision, you have to go if you get in. You only apply to one early decision. We don't have that. We have early action, which is you apply by November 5th, you find out at the end of January, and you have till May 1st to make your decision if you want to come or not. You can hear back from other schools, get financial aid packages. It's just that May 1st deadline, you have to make your decision. Regular decision deadline is January 15th. If you apply by that deadline, those decisions are released in early March. And once again, you have till May 1st to make your decision. So the biggest difference between those two is just the time frame in which you're going to hear and how long you have to make your decision. December is when the filing period for the FAFSA comes out. I've been hearing December 1st. Time will tell what the exact date will be for that. March 1st is our FAFSA priority deadline, but really, if the quicker you fill it out, once we start packaging, the quicker you'll get your financial aid package. May 1st, I talked about the national candidate reply date, so that's the date that schools will hold your spot if you get admitted before you deposit. So they'll hold it until May 1st, and then after that, some schools will still take a deposit, some won't, but that's the day that they hold it till, so you have till then to make up your mind. So the differences between early action and regular decision, I went over them a little bit as far as what the time frame is, but who should apply to which. So early action, most of the time, not all the time, we don't have your senior year grades yet. We're not requiring them or waiting for them. So we make our decision on your freshman through junior year academics. And if you feel confident with that, then great. I think early action is a really great spot. Sometimes we have your grades. We start reading November 5th. It takes us a couple months. And so if you're in the later part of the read, maybe they're there. But we don't read, but you would never know if you were going to read too early or later. And so I would say just be comfortable with those first 3 years if you're going to apply for early action. Regular decision, the student that I would say definitely should apply regular decision is one who maybe struggled to transition to high school. Their first year and a half, wasn't so great. They really came into their stride junior year, and they need those senior year grades to show this is the student I am now. It wasn't a fluke junior year. And so those students might need their senior year grades to really show us kind of where they're at. And those students, I think, are a good fit for regular decision. First and foremost, the decision should be based on how can I get my best application out there. So if you need more time because you're feeling rushed, then wait till regular decision. Best foot forward is definitely number one. We also moved last year to single release dates. So the end of January, we'll release for early action, and we will put out a specific date once we see how many applications we get, so we can make a good big effort to know what date we can get them to you by. But we will advertise a specific date, so you'll know exactly when we're going to release the decisions, and same for a regular decision. So what do you need? We're on the common application. I mentioned that before. It is the only application that we take. Within the common app, we have extracurriculars, which can really be anything from school activity, outside of school activity, work, any really intensive familial obligations. We want to know how you spend your time and what kind of contributions you're making to the things that you're doing. Essay, everybody's pretty aware that you're going to have to write an essay. That's such a big topic of conversation. We only require the essay that's on the Common App. Even juniors, sophomores, freshmen, you can go on the Common App, take a look at the essay prompts if you want. They don't change very much, if at all. For the essay, my biggest piece of advice is just to make sure we're learning more about you. That's not as easy, I think, as it sounds. You're used to writing essays in school about topics or persuasion papers, and writing about yourself can sometimes feel a little uncomfortable. So people for comfort reasons, kind of stick to the topic and not themselves, but really the topic is more of a catalyst for us to learn about you. So we want to learn more about you and all the wonderful things that you have to offer. UMass questions. Why do you want to come to UMass? Why did you choose the majors you chose? And kind of explain how a part of your community has affected you or given you skills that you can bring here. These are short answer questions. They're on our part of the UMass part of the common application. Official high school transcript is pretty self-explanatory. We just need it to make sure it comes from the school directly, and they have processes for these, so that's pretty quick. This year we started doing the SRR, the self-reported academic record. It's optional for this year. Basically, you go in and fill out a form that asks what classes you took and what grades you got, what level they are. It's like the Common App, where if other schools require it, you only have to fill it out once, and then it can go to the schools you're applying to. Right, like I said, right now it's optional, but it does help us review you a lot faster, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to start getting our decisions out quicker. This year we really have to do a lot of research on what schools it works better for, so we're still going to recalculate everybody's GPA as we do every year and compare them to the forms that we get. But our hope is that it puts everybody kind of on a more even playing field as far as right now we have groups of 50 people recalculating GPAs. This is just kind of like it'll be the same requirements every time. And like I said, hopefully we'll speed up the process a bit. Recalculating 50,000+ GPAs takes a lot of time. Letter of recommendation, we require one, we'll take up to 3. I think that's pretty standard. You all, especially seniors, have probably already gotten at least 2 or 3 for other schools, so you can feel free to send us what you have. A teacher recommendation is always wonderful. We want to see how well you do in class, what your behaviors are like in class, but we also really enjoy the counselor recs, and I think that a lot of times, especially students who are pretty self-sufficient, don't know their counselors very well, but the counselor gives us context in your school that you might not think to get otherwise. So the teacher can put you in context of the classroom, and the counselor can put you in context of your school, which we find very helpful. And then let's say you have one more and you haven't asked somebody yet, and you just want to find that third one. We're happy to have it from somebody else, whether it's a coach or an employer or head of a club you're in. Each piece of the application you really should think as rounding out who you are, because we are strangers and we don't know you, and everything that we know is just what you give us in your application. So making sure that you're using each piece of the application as an opportunity for us to learn more about you can just help us see a rounder picture of who you are. On the Common App, we review all students for the Commonwealth Honors College, so you don't have to check a box or anything like that. We'll review everybody for it, and if you qualify, we'll offer it to you in your acceptance letter. The same goes for merit scholarships. We review everybody for a merit scholarship, and if you qualify, we offer it to you in your acceptance letter. Students do choose what major they want to apply for. We have an intended major and an alternative major. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important in a little bit. We are test optional. I've been trying to say SAT, ACT optional. We do require English language proficiency tests for some students, but SAT, ACT is optional. If you don't submit your scores, don't feel like we're making assumptions about you or assuming you did that and that's why you didn't send them. We just use what you send us to make our decision. But the same goes for if you send us your scores. We use what you send us to make our decision. So that's really up to you if you want those included or not. And I do think it's getting harder and harder for students to decide whether they want to. I can tell you our SAT average this past year jumped 60 points. And that's not because people are doing better on the SATs, it's because the people who are choosing to send us their SATs are the people who are getting higher and higher. And so looking at an average for a school, which I think is a good place to start, but doesn't give you the whole picture anymore, because that doesn't mean that we're looking at somebody who has even sometimes 200 points below our average. You're like, oh wow, that's still a good SAT. So my biggest piece of advice, which I know is hard to really conceptualize, but you look at your GPA, consider your GPA and your test scores your quote-unquote academic information. Then is your SAT helping your GPA or hurting your GPA? Because if it's helping it, great, send it in. But if it's not, then we will only have your GPA if you don't send them. And that's what we'll use for our academic information. So then why would you send them? I know that's hard sometimes to conceptualize, but I think a guidance counselor is a good place to start. Where do my SATs match my GPA? Do they kind of bring that up, or do they weigh it down? All right. Choosing a major. So we do review applications by major. We don't have a general undecided major, but we have what we call exploratory tracks within our schools and colleges. So it's basically undecided within the College of Humanities and Fine Arts, or undecided within the College of Natural Sciences. And on the Common App, we do call them undecided because who knows what an exploratory track is unless you've been to one of these. But I do think exploratory track actually helps define what those are a little bit better. There are advisors who have been trained and are ready to help you explore. And they're not doing this, you're not going to do this to delay any kind of education that you're going to get. It's not a temporary pause. You're still moving forward towards graduation, taking classes that you can count towards your graduation, but they're going to help you intentionally to explore what your interests are, and so help you figure that out. The intended major is required. The alternative major is optional, but if you do choose to put one there, if we can't offer you acceptance to your intended major, we may consider you for your alternative major. Part of why that says it's very unlikely is because we do want to see some interest in that alternative major. Basically what happens is we used to do it all the time, and then we found that the students who didn't get into their first choice either didn't come or they came, and if they couldn't get into their first choice, they left. And so that wasn't really helpful for the students, it wasn't helpful for us. So now we just try to gauge some kind of interest. If you're applying to, computer science, and then, you choose dance as your second choice, we can't really make that connection of why you're interested in those things, so we would like you to make it for us. We give you a really good option to do it. We ask, why did you choose the majors with an S that you chose? 98% of people just talk about their first choice, which is fine. Maybe they're only interested in their first choice, but we give you an opportunity to talk to us about it. And so if you are interested in both, I would just suggest talking about it in that section. This kind of goes into switching into the Eisenberg School of Management, which is not allowed once you're on campus unless you're looking for hospitality and tourism management, and it doesn't say up there, but sports management also takes some internal transfers. The only option for non-Eisenberg majors within Eisenberg is the business minor, but there are lots of other ways to get a career in business. And we just had a session earlier today called Beyond Business as Usual, and we're going to have one virtually. If you go onto our website and look at events, there's going to be a virtual one as well, where we invite partners from across campus to talk about other options to get a career in business. And I think once you sit through that session, you'll realize that there are so many paths to get to where you want to be. Eisenberg is a great one, but it's not the only one. And so I suggest if that's something you're interested in, finding that on our website. It's later in the month. Our UMass questions I talked about a little bit. My biggest advice for these is just to know they're there, put some thought and effort into it. I think most of the time they're great. The students write helpful things, but you can tell when somebody came across it and just wrote and then moved on, where they didn't kind of spend some time cultivating the answer. All right, so reviewing our process. This holistic process, you've probably heard this word if you've visited other colleges. I think there's lots of variations of holistic reading. I feel like we switched to a holistic model probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and every year, I'm like, we thought we read holistically last year. Look at how we're reading this year, and then the next year, I'm like, we thought we read holistically last year. Look at how we're reading this year. So we're getting better and better at trying to understand the student within the context of their environment, within the context of their school, and taking all of it into consideration. Because what we're trying to do is predict success in college based on the application. And so that's part of the holistic process. So what do we consider academic achievement? That's always going to be number one. That's the greatest predictor of success. If you do well in high school, you're usually going to do well in college. It's not the only one. It doesn't mean that 100% of the people who do well in high school do well in college. It doesn't mean that 100% of the people who don't do well in college. But that is kind of the highest predictor that we have. And when we say academic achievement, we don't just mean grades. Usually I say we look at the transcript, and I say that very intentionally because the transcript is what classes you've taken, the rigor of those classes, and obviously also your grades. We want to see what were the opportunities available to you at your school, what did you take advantage of, and how well did you do. So those are kind of the things that we're looking at when we're looking at academic achievement. Activities, we talked a little bit about that. The essay and custom questions are a part of it, letters of recommendation. Supplemental materials are specifically for music and dance, they require an audition, and for art and architecture, they require a portfolio. But that comes into play for those majors. How we review it, holistic review, mentioned that again. So we're considering every piece of your application. That doesn't mean we're weighing them all evenly. Like I said, academics do play probably the biggest role, but we are looking at it all. I know that a lot of times when I tell people we have over 50,000 applications, they don't believe that we read every essay and we read the recommendations, but we do. We believe that you put the time and effort to apply, we're going to take the time and effort to review you. We have more qualified applicants than we have spaces on campus, so we do have to look at other things besides academics. We want students who are going to contribute to our community, that are going to add things to our classrooms. So we're considering things like personal achievements and characteristics. We want people who are going to be kind and open-minded and make sure that it's a safe learning experience for everybody around them. All right, so just a look at our kind of class profile. This is for the students who entered this year. We had just over 5,000 applications. Our admitted student profile, 19% underrepresented, 19% first generation, and 8% international. And then 8% international is from over 50 different countries. Over 50,000 applications, 30,000 admits, which is around a 59% acceptance rate. The acceptance rate, and this is something I would caution when talking to schools when you're asking like, what's your acceptance rate? I think it's a great question. You get a feel for kind of what the competitiveness is of the school's admission process. But I wouldn't just stop there. If somebody just wanted to find that out, they may take the wrong thing from it. Yeah, 59% is our acceptance rate. That ranges from nursing, which is about a 14% acceptance rate, to our colleges, communities, and fine arts, which is a 74% acceptance rate. So it's a wide range. I would say the majority of our majors fall within the higher 60 to 70 percentages. But computer science, nursing, Eisenberg School of Management, just the BBA program, so that's the non-hospitality and non-sports management majors, and computer science. No, computer science and engineering. Those are the four that are a little bit harder to get into. Nursing, yes, a lot harder, but nursing is kind of the low end of the spectrum. That's pretty common for a lot of nursing programs. I do think it's important to kind of follow up with questions like that because especially being a state university, if you're in Massachusetts, you know lots of people who have applied, you know lots of people who got in, maybe didn't get in, and some of it might not make sense to you, and chances are it's because of the major they applied to. So something to think about. Good. All right, so we have about 10 minutes for questions, and I'm pretty much done. I have one more thing, but I first want to make sure that we have room for questions if anybody has.
So if I did competitions and I have medals in them, should I explain what goes into that medal?
Yes. Yeah, so one of the things that we look at is impact. What kind of an impact have you had in the things that you're involved in? So that's definitely something that we want to know about. Yeah. Any explanation really is helpful into the things that you've done. Yeah, just remember, like, we're just, everyday people who've had different experiences, and we might know what goes into some things and not others, so the more you can tell us, the better. Good question. So the question was on AP scores. Do we look at the scores you got on the test as well as the grades? So for admissions, we don't. Every once in a while, like let's say for a math-heavy major, engineering, you've got like one grade that's a little iffy, but we look at your AP scores and they're really good, and your SAT math section is good, so we're like, okay, they're fine. Like it might come into play kind of like that, but it's not something we're consistently looking at. But we do take AP credit, and so that's when the scores do come into play. Yeah.
You mentioned the acceptance rates for different majors. Are those statistics somewhere on the website?
That's a good question. I don't know that the statistics are somewhere on the website, but if you email us or if you talk to me after, I can try to look that up. Yeah. Yeah, so about the community college to UMass transfer process. So there's a few different things that you can do. We have specific programs through the Massachusetts community colleges. Mass Transfer is one of the biggest ones where you are in an approved program, you graduate with your associates with a certain GPA, you're guaranteed admission to any state university. There's also financial benefits to that. There's, I think, a tuition credit that comes on once you start here or at any of the schools that kind of gives you a discount for your 2 years at the next campuses. But we also have students who just go for a semester or a year and transfer as well. The good thing is that your transfer counselor at those community colleges, especially in Massachusetts, are very familiar with our requirements and what class transfers to what class. So it gives you a really good idea, kind of before you take classes, which ones are the best to take.
If you transfer from a community college, do all of the computer science need transfer into that, or is that one related to you can't transfer to?
You can. Excuse me. The only major you can't transfer into, even from an outside school, is nursing. So Eisenberg, you can't do an internal transfer, but you can still externally transfer. But nursing is just closed. All right. So I will stay after if you have individual questions. But the last thing I just kind of want to leave you with is a couple pieces of advice, whether you want to give them or not. So my biggest thing is that I think that this process does get very stressful, and unreasonably it does. But if you can have a little fun with it, if you kind of take a step back and take a look at what you're doing, which is maybe visiting places you've never visited before, really getting to do some self-exploration to get to choose this piece of your life. You haven't really gotten to make these kinds of decisions before. You're choosing where you want to be, you're choosing what you think is the best for you, and you get to kind of self-reflect on what is the best for me. I think there's a lot of control in it. There's some pieces that are not in control. You kind of get control of this part. Where am I looking? Where do I want to apply? Then you apply and your control does go away, which I know is a little scary. it's very vulnerable to put yourself out there. You're putting all of yourself on a piece of paper, or I think it's on a computer, but sending it to schools, and then, it feels very personal. And you might not believe me, but it's really not a personal process. Amherst school is a business. They admit people for one reason or another, and your self-worth has nothing to do with the acceptances or the denials that you get. So it can be hard, but then you get your decisions, and you have the control back, and you get to explore again, and what school is the best for me, and what's the environment where I feel like I'm gonna grow into this person I wanna be. And so I think that there are parts of it that you can enjoy, and I hope that you try to find them amongst the stress that I know is just inevitable. And if we can help you in any part of that process, we're happy to do so. But I will stay after. Good luck with everything. I hope you have a really good rest of your day and safe travels back to wherever